What's going on, everyone? So the Los Angeles Lakers definitely need a starting caliber center. And more likely than not, the only way that they're going to acquire a starting caliber center is probably via trade. And one of the names that have been linked to the Lakers since for really years for now, but particularly this past trade deadline and now in the offseason, you're already hearing like kind of rumors and reports about, hey, the Lakers might go take a look at Nic Claxton. And Nic Claxton, I think, makes a ton of sense for the Lakers. He is on paper, again, everything the Lakers need as far as a center goes. He's a guy that I don't like how many teams are going to go and pay the money. Like his contract isn't insane, right? And his contract does drop every year, but he is due almost like $75 million over the next 3 years. So going into next season, he'll have a contract of $25.3 million, then $23.1, then just under a hair under $21 million in the 2027-2028 season. But he's a guy you'd have decrease $2 million each year. And on top of that, you would have, essentially him for 3 more years under contract. And even then he'd still be young. He'd be 28 years old. He just turned 26 this past April. So he's a guy that is young, athletic, and again, gives you everything you need, right? He's a good to great defensive big man. He's a guy that can block multiple shots a game. He's a guy that can defend in the pick and roll. He's a guy that can even switch out and defend on the perimeter. Not a guy you really want defending too much, but he's a guy that can hold his own out on the island, right? No, he can defend in space, which is what you want from a big man. And a guy that I think is just very versatile, right? I don't think he's going to have a huge market because, again, how many teams need a starting center, right? And you're not going and trading for a Nic Claxton for him to be a guy that is coming off the bench and you're paying him, $25 million, $26 million, right? Like he's a guy that needs to start. He's best in a starting role, right? The Nets he's kind of been all over the place these last few years with the Nets. Part of that has been the Nets have been tanking, and part of that is just the Nets have kind of been all over the place, right? So, no, I think it would do him well to be a guy that can come in, right, get some stability, play alongside a guy like Luka that's going to make him look like an all-star. And, I mean, he's a double-double guy now, right? Even in a down year with the Brooklyn Nets, he's a double-double guy, right? Imagine what Luka makes him, right, when he gets to be that floor runner lob threat. Now, the kind of knock on Nic Claxton is that he isn't huge, right? He's not 250, right, where there is an argument to be made that like you'd prefer kind of a more bigger physical center, but I think you could have that in a backup setting, right? Like Nic Claxton is exactly what the Lakers need as far as that floor running, athletic, versatile defensive big man that can be the lob threat for Luka. Yes, he's 6'11", 215 pounds, so he's thin, right? But that's why I'd like to go get a Clint Capella or a Jericho Sims or somebody like that you could bring off the bench for that like Jokic matchup and stuff like that, right? Like go get a Nic Claxton, who in my opinion might be the most realistic option for the Lakers for a couple reasons. One, you have Sean Marks and Rob Pelinka have a really good relationship. 2, the Lakers have made multiple trades with Brooklyn. 3, we know that the Lakers have the biggest asset that is the most valuable to Brooklyn, and that is expiring contracts, right? So the Lakers are in a leverage position for that type of trade because they have expiring contracts to get in Nic Claxton. I mean, you could try to get Nic Claxton and several players from the Brooklyn Nets. Brooklyn has several key pieces that the Lakers could use. And, yes, the Nets are in the Giannis business. There's a lot of talk about them wanting Giannis, but even then, like the Lakers could try to get in the thick of it and be like, because they're going to have to trade Claxton and Cam Johnson and that type of deal. So maybe the Lakers could get those pieces and then send out whatever they need to send out to the Bucks instead of Brooklyn. So even if like the Giannis trade does happen to the Nets, I still think there is a path for the Lakers to get Claxton and maybe even a Cam Johnson, but particularly Claxton. You can make an argument Nic Claxton is probably the most realistic center for the Lakers going forward. And again, I don't hate it, right? Like I do think Nic Claxton is a guy that makes a ton of sense for the Lakers. Again, he is ideal for what the Lakers need, particularly for Luka, right? Like he is a more matured Derek Lively. Derek Lively's been great for Dallas, right? And I think that that's exactly what Nic Claxton could be for the Lakers. A more experienced, a little more mature, Derek Lively. Derek Lively in 2 years is probably Nic Claxton, right? But you'd already have him, right? Ready to go, primed, and now you're off to the races, right? So you kind of look at Nic Claxton, right? Let's go over the stats, go over his numbers, right? So this year, 70 games played, 62 games started. He averaged 26.9 minutes per game, which is the lowest he has played in the last 3 years. He was averaging just under 30 minutes per game the previous 2 years. He's also a guy that's played 70 games, 71 games, and 76 games the last 3 years, which is very good. So it's just kind of something to keep in mind. But again, played 8 games off the bench, 26, so basically 27 minutes per game. He averaged 8.1 field goal attempts per game, field goal percentage of 56.3%. And it's actually because he took a handful of threes this past year, which he's not really a three-point shooter, right? But he took 0.3 attempts and shot 24% from three-point range. Not a guy you really want taking threes. But to me, he'd be more of a lob threat, where if you look at the seasons in which he didn't take any threes, he was around about a 65%. He actually had a season in which he averaged 71% from the floor, which was very impressive. But this past season, again, 57.6% from 2-point range, EFG of 56.8%. Free throw shooting, he is not a good free throw shooter. And that is probably the biggest concern with him, is that he's not a guy that you can trust down the stretch in a, Hacka Claxton scenario, right? But most centers aren't. Like, most of the centers that the Lakers are looking for are not like great free throw shooters regardless, but pretty bad. He's a career 53.7% free throw shooter. He shot 51% on 2.2 attempts. Rebounding, he averaged last season 7.4 rebounds per game, 2.2 assists, a steal, and 1.5 blocks per game, including 10.3 points. Now, if you look at the last 2 years in which he played around 30 minutes, right? Because if he's our starter, he's probably playing around 30 minutes, right? He averaged 12 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, half a steal, and 2.1 blocks. And then in 2022-2023, averaged just under 13 points per game with 10 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and 2.5 blocks. So he's a guy that is basically 2 to 2.5 blocks per game as a full-time starter, right? So if we go over his per 36, which, again, doesn't tell you the whole story, but it kind of gives you an idea because the numbers are actually very similar to when he has played 30 minutes, right? So his per 36 is 14 points last season. If we're going off of just last season's number, 14 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 1.5 steals, and 2 blocks per game. But if you look at the previous years, those 2 other years that I talked about, 14 points, 12 rebounds, 2.5 assists, a steal, and 2.5 blocks per game. And then in the 2022-2023 season, 15.2 points, 11 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 1 steal, and 3 blocks per game. So again, he's a guy that could be a 12 and 10 guy for the Lakers. I think alongside Luka, he's probably that. He's probably close to that, right? He's probably maybe even like a 15 and 10 guy, right? So he's a guy that can run the floor, be the lob threat, run in the pick and roll, right? Again, defend in space, defend in the pick and roll, be a shot blocker, be a rebounder, right? He is, again, ideal for the Lakers. Is he the most perfect option ever? No, but he is what the Lakers need as far as like center positions go. And I don't think you'd have to sell the farm. Like, you might not, what assets would you have to give up, right? Like, your biggest asset, again, would be the expiring contract, right? Like, if I'm Rob, that's my argument. Calling up Sean Marks and I'm like, hey, buddy, right? You want to get out of the Claxton business? He's got $75 million over the next 3 years, and you're a team that's trying to shed every ounce of salary. Well, guess what we got? We could do something like a Maxi Kleba and a Rui Hachimura, and you give us, Claxton and another piece or something, or maybe even clear some salary for yourself or something like that, right? Hey, we'll give you a pick swap and, Rui plus, Gabe or something like that, right? Like, or hey, you need another big man, we'll give you Rui plus Kleba, right? Boom, there you go. And now you ended up getting, your starting center for now in the next 8 years, right? Like, boom, perfect. Again, I'd like a guy with a little more size. I'd like a guy that you can kind of slot in and be a backup, right? That just can be a little more physical, have a little more weight behind him. But again, Nic Claxton is probably the most realistic option. I don't think would break the bank as far as like assets and trade goes. So you could still make other trades. You could still make other moves. He has a contract that declines each season, which is very valuable for the Lakers, right? That's what you want. You want a guy that, helps free up a little cap space year after year. Still young enough to be a real piece. And again, is exactly what you want slotted alongside Luka. I think if you're the Lakers, I think you make the move. I think you make the push to try to bring in a Nic Claxton. I think he's a guy that, again, makes some sense for the Lakers. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel with your thoughts? Do you agree with me? Disagree with me? Kind of mix in the middle? Do you love the idea of Nic Claxton? Either way, love to hear it down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. House of not, so we enjoy these types of videos. Truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.